we have a problem about Mars. Let me tell you some of the history. In the late 1800s, there was a guy named Percival Lowell, and he was looking at Mars with his telescope, and he saw lines. And he's like, holy cow, there are canals, there's intelligent life on Mars. But if you do the math, the size of telescope that he had wouldn't be able to resolve that fine of a detail. And now that we've got more sophisticated instruments, we can see a lot more detail on Mars, and there are not canals on Mars. When he published his findings, the scientific community had to walk it back after we found out that there wasn't actually life building canals on Mars. We've got better telescopes now. We've actually sent rovers to Mars, and the scientists kind of like, the scientific community felt embarrassed that this information was published and it was wrong. But something really good came out of it. What he published inspired an entire generation of young people. This discovery inspired a lot of fiction. This was like the beginning of science fiction. These kids grew up to become astronomers and scientists and engineers. And this was what made Mars interesting, something to be studied. With that came a lot of funding. So without the hype, Mars wouldn't be as deeply or rigorously studied thanks to Percival Lowell, even though his discovery was wrong. Then, over 100 years later, so actually not very long ago, this is like 30 years ago, a scientist was studying a rock they found in Antarctica that came from Mars. Something a long time ago hit Mars hard enough to knock stuff out into space, and then it orbited for a long time around the sun, and then came and landed on Earth. And enough of it was preserved that we could cut into it and look at it with microscopes, and there's a little worm-looking thing in there that looks like a bacteria, and it's the same size as a bacteria. And so we send up the alarm bells again. Oh, that's life. Life was discovered on Mars, from Mars. And the president even talked about it. And then scientists dug into it a lot more. There's definitely some ways that this shape could have formed without life. And it's so old that if it was bacteria, the bacteria itself isn't there. It's more just like a fossil. But there's definitely ways that this could have formed with geology, not actually life. Scientific community is like, oops, we just did it again. But there was a similar outcome on the public side of things. There was a lot of public fascination. People got excited about the idea of life on Mars. And of course, the possibility of life on Mars hit the headlines, and then oh wait, actually, it's probably not life didn't really hit the news. So the majority of the public is like, woo, life in Mars. This renewed fascination about Mars, and people got excited. This was only 1996, so 30 years ago. So this gave justification for the Spirit and Opportunity Mars rovers and the other things we sent to Mars, like the Viking. I knew it was a V. Voyagers in my head because the Voyager probes are cool. The Viking landers. A lot of the cool things we've done have been in pairs, like the Voyagers, Spirit and Opportunity. Anyway, I am getting distracted. So there's this renewed excitement about Mars. The scientific community doesn't so much see the excitement, they just see, oh, we messed up. We just published something that wasn't true. So scientists are like, we can't hype up any potential discovery of life on Mars. We're gonna get embarrassed. Because credibility matters and public trust matters. That's called the Allen Hills meteorite, because Allen Hills is the guy in Antarctica who discovered it, not the scientist who was looking at it and thought he found life. I don't remember that guy's name. But it's happening again, but not in the same way, and it's sad. In fixing one problem, they may have caused another problem. Perseverance. This is what the Perseverance Mars rover looks like. It does look like it's built from Legos, because that's how you build Mars rovers, right? Just use a really big Lego set. I don't know. It's bigger than this, though. It's like car-sized. Perseverance has this really cool feature. No other Mars rover has done this. This is the highest tech robot we've ever sent to Mars. What the plan is for it to drill holes in rocks, and it also has a cache system. It has a way of storing the samples in little tubes that it leaves on the ground. With the plan that we send another rocket out to Mars to go and retrieve the samples and bring them back to Earth. That is the Mars Sample Return mission, and it's running into funding issues. It's looking like it may not happen. It started going over budget. It's only partway built. It may not be able to send it out there, and that's really sad, especially with what I'm about to tell you. Perseverance found a rock with little spots on it, little leopard spots. And scientists looked at it and they're like, okay, let's not jump to conclusions, but there's definitely stuff on Earth that makes spots like this that are made by life. So like, hold on, before we go crazy and embarrass ourselves again, let's do our due diligence and find out for sure. Well, we can't find out for sure until we get the funding to do the Mars sample return. They recently released a paper, these scientists, about all the possible ways that these spots could have formed. They know some of the chemicals because of some of the instruments on the Perseverance rover, and they're like, okay, here's a way that they could have formed, that these ingredients could have formed. They're what's called redox reactions. It's where an electron is transferred one way or the other from one thing to another thing. And they're like, that's definitely happened here. Life can do that, but there are some ways that it can happen without life, just with geology. But the geological ways that they know of it happening requires a lot of heat. And the surrounding rock doesn't look like it's ever been subjected to that kind of heat since it's been formed. It's a sedimentary rock. Everything points to it being very likely that it could be life. But the scientists, understandably, are trying to not hype it up. But hype is what's going to get the public excited. And the public being excited is what's going to get us the funding to find out if it's life or not. Even if it's not life, getting these samples back will be an incredible amount of things we can learn about these samples. So, hype isn't the enemy to science. Hype creates interest. Interest inspires people, and inspired people fund science better. And fund better science. We can do better science when we have better funding. Now, one of the issues that this didn't make headlines was because the same time that this paper came out, they couldn't find a real legitimate way of this being formed without life. This paper was very thorough, by the way. They did a really good job. It came out right around the same time that Charlie Kirk was shot. And so it kind of got buried in the news. The headlines were all Charlie Kirk. This really important discovery didn't make it very far. Now, it's understandable. That was sad. And I'm going to come out with a video about that as well, because it hits close to home for me, literally. So fear of getting the facts wrong is killing the appropriate level of hype. We don't want to overhype it unnecessarily. What can we do? The solution isn't to all pitch in money to fund the sample return. What we can do is share a little bit of the hype. If this is exciting to you, the fact that there might be evidence of life on Mars that is already bottled up in one of those capsules that we just got to bring it back to Earth to study it, then share this story. I'll link to the paper down below. There are a lot of other YouTubers who have talked about this. So share the hype. Let people know. Let people know about this really cool rock that we got to bring back. I've never introduced myself on YouTube. I'm Tate. This is my channel about being a beginner and about learning crazy things like rocks on Mars or how politics works. I'll be sharing a lot of cool, fun stuff. Speaking of robots, however, I'm going to be building a robot and I need your ideas on what it should do. I'm going to be taking apart a car that's got a bunch of little 12-volt motors in it for the seats and the windows, and I'm going to put them together to build something cool. What should I build? I'm Tate. You're watching Forever a Beginner. Don't be afraid to start something new and be a beginner at it.